Welcome to Lock It Down Sports. I'm your host, Locke Hoover. And as always, you can follow me on Twitter at Lock It Up Media. That's Lock It Up Media on Twitter. You can also check us out at E5280 Sports. That's E5280 Sports. And today on the Lock It Down Sports show, SEC permanent opponents have been released, how UT helped itself without playing, and what the future could look like in Knoxville. But first, I want to talk about the permanent opponents for the SEC for the next 4 years. So the SEC will have 3 annual opponents, permanent opponents, and then 6 rotating SEC opponents. And then also they will play a Power 5 non-conference school, at least one Power 5 non-conference school. So that's what it's going to look like with them going to a 9-game SEC schedule. Each team will play within a 2-year span and visit every venue over the years, which I love that. I love that each team will get to play in every venue over that time span, especially for the fans getting to travel to different stadiums, different areas, to see the traditions, to see the tailgates, to see all that. Yes, there's some good and some bad with the balancing of the schedules. They tried to look at rivalries and look at balance of teams and how they've played and how they are and the outlook of all that. Yes, some are harder than others, but that just kind of comes with the territory. You look at Tennessee, they probably got the easiest slate. I mean, you knew they were going to have Alabama and Vanderbilt because Vandy, the in-state team, obviously. But then they also got Kentucky, which Vanderbilt and Kentucky about the 2 absolutely easiest teams. Throwing maybe a Mississippi State, who's obviously gotten better this year, and a lot of that can change that with the portal. But probably the 2 easiest teams, and I get the moaning, the groaning, the complaining. But let me ask you this question. Did I see any, well, that's too bad. I feel really awful for you, Tennessee, having to play Georgia, Florida, and Alabama every year. I didn't hear any of those. Oh, well, that's too bad. I want to go back to 95. So 95, since 95, Tennessee has guaranteed themselves that they'd play the team that would go on to win the national championship 11 times between Georgia, Alabama, and Florida in 30 years. Over half your games in 30 years. One of those teams is going to be the guaranteed national title winner. And I didn't even look at like the crossover years when Tennessee played in Alabama. When Tennessee played in LSU, when Tennessee played in Auburn. I didn't even look at that. I didn't even do a deep dive in that realm. But 11 times in 30 years, play the national title winner. I didn't see that's not fair for Tennessee. That's just, that was our schedule. That's how it is. We accept it. We embraced it. So I really don't want to hear Tennessee gets Vanderbilt and Kentucky along with Alabama. So they play one team as their permanent opponent. I mean, yeah, that's sorry, I guess. Personally, I would have preferred Georgia or Florida or even a South Carolina as our 3rd game. But because I enjoy the bigger games, the bigger rivalry, and to me that any one of those 2, Georgia or Florida, is a bigger rivalry to me than Kentucky. But when you look at Kentucky, it's like they consider Tennessee one of our biggest rivalries. It's like, oh, huh, okay. So that's kind of how the breakdown. They got 13 for Tennessee was going to be the interesting one of how it was all going to shake out. Now, I think overall it's pretty fair, as the main two for schools I think was going to be pretty clear, and then sometimes that third one was going to be tricky. And I think that's where the balance was trying to come into play in that aspect. I mean, for Georgia, the first two are pretty easy. Florida and Auburn. And then it's like, then where are you going? You go in Tennessee, you go Kentucky. They went with South Carolina. Auburn. Once again, first two are easy. Georgia and Alabama. Then where do you go? Do you go LSU, which would have been tough? Do you go Mississippi State? Do you go Texas A&M, even though that's kind of a newer rivalry, because divisions and all that? But no, they went with Vanderbilt. Once again, I think the competitive balance kind of in play there as well, to give them Georgia and Alabama. Okay, you got Vandy as your third. Then Texas A&M. Once again, first two are easy. Texas, LSU, and then who? Do you go in Oklahoma? Do you go Arkansas, going back to the Big 12 days? Where or even farther, the Big 8 days before the Big 12, where's that? So they went with Missouri. So that kind of fits-ish, Big 12 clashing again in a sense of the old Big 12. So there's like a lot of different directions schools could go. And then, to me, you have teams like Missouri and South Carolina where many schools could fit. Like, where do you go with that? The door's wide open of, these are our two, and then who's our third? It's, I don't know, there are three teams, and that fits. I think the other good thing about this is this is going to be relooked at again when this cycle is done and teams get it switched up. So I think, I feel like it's going to be that one school that gets swapped up for potentially a lot of these programs. They're going to keep Alabama and they're going to keep Vandy. Does a third team rotate to be Florida? Does it rotate to be Georgia? Does it rotate to be South Carolina? Maybe it's an Auburn in there. It's like, how does that look? Same thing with Georgia. They're going to keep Auburn. They're going to keep Florida. Is that third team a South Carolina, a Missouri? So there's a bunch of different routes to go. But I think it's good. They're going to revive. It's not going to be like a permanent lock of here's what we're doing, here's where we're going. So it's going to be swapped up, which I think is a good thing. And speaking of good things, Tennessee was off last week and got a lot of good things to happen, as they didn't even have to play a game and moved up in the rankings to 12th from 15. And a lot of important teams lost. When you look at the big scope of things when it comes to, obviously, the college football playoff, Texas losing to Florida now has 2 losses, and they could end up with 3 more. They could end up losing to Georgia, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M, which, if that happened the way they look this year, that would not surprise me. Now, if they run the table, sure, it's a different story. But even if they lose one of these 3, I think with 3 losses, they're pretty much done. Penn State losing to UCLA as well. That's their second loss. It's a bad loss. They still got Indiana. I'm not high on Indiana. If you think they're good. Potential loss. But they still got Ohio State. So saying they lose to Ohio State, that's 3 losses for them. They're pretty much out. Florida State, that's their second loss to Miami. Yeah, they could run the table, but then you're looking at losses in that Virginia loss may or may not be good. I know Virginia's ranked now, but that was after beating Florida State. So that could look like a bad loss as well. Then you move over to the Big 12. Cincinnati giving Iowa State a loss. Their first loss, in fact. And what is a wide open Big 12? Still got BYU and Arizona State on the schedule for Iowa State. So that's another potential loss for them. I mean, I guess Tennessee just has to have a week off and things improve. And, I mean, that's another thing, too. They're getting healthier. Yeah, you would have loved to have the week off after the Alabama game for sure. I mean, before the Alabama game. Instead, it falls before the Arkansas game. But Tennessee is continuing to get healthier and healthier. Every week, you got David Sanders coming back as he played some in the Mississippi State game. Another week closer for McCoy to come back. He's not coming back for the Arkansas game. Got Devin Hobbs, defensive lineman. He'll be back playing. Starting, he hasn't said one way or the other, but the way Tennessee likes to rotate at the defensive line, just the bodies, and get another healthy one in, is very important. He can work his way back in, and he's ready to go. I mean, hopefully, just maybe McCoy's able to come back next week. I mean, you've got other three big games: Oklahoma, Alabama, and Florida. Two of those games on the road with being Alabama and Florida. And all these guys are going to be important to come back. I still think you can lose one game, maybe, in Oklahoma or Alabama and still possibly get in. If you lose to Florida, I think you're done. Lose 2 out of 3, you're done. You got 3 losses. So always, I've said this, it's still, things tend to work themselves out. There's a lot of football left, but they're still in a good position as they currently sit. It's the old cliche now, take one game at a time, then you move on to the next one. And that's where they're at. And it's not a bad spot to be in, but it's you got pressure because you got so good teams on your schedule. Your schedule's not done yet. Now, I thought this tweet, was it was a good tweet. It broke down the rosters of every SEC school from percentage of rosters, from grads on the roster to all the way to seniors, juniors, sophomores, freshmen. And I was looking at the Tennessee roster to kind of see how this shakes out. And I was like, I'm kind of curious to see Tennessee's breakdown of the roster. So Tennessee has 49.5% of their roster are freshmen. And that's out of all the SEC, and that's leading the conference. And they have the least amount of seniors. So that could bode well. Interesting enough, I was like, all right, so those two stuck out to me, but where do they have as far as sophomores and juniors? They have the least amount of sophomores on their roster compared to the rest of the SEC, but tied for 5th most juniors on their roster. So interesting, they have the most sophomores on their roster compared to the rest of the SEC, and tied for the 5th juniors. So I was like, that's kind of an interesting breakdown. Could mean a promising future. Obviously, they all stay, which, of course, that's an issue. But it's like, this is all cool. It's all fun. It's hard to tell, hard to know with the portal what they're doing, where they stand with NIL, kids leaving, wanting to play more, and that whole situation. But With that being said, I did do some breakdowns of some numbers of actual guys and what they're doing. So 48 total freshmen have played. 27 are true freshmen, 21 are redshirt freshmen. Yes, not all of those games are those games being played are a lot of snaps and actual offense or defense. Some are special teams. But to me, that's important because it's getting on the field on special teams as freshmen. That matters. To me, it's like a progressive thing. Freshmen on the field playing on special teams, getting a feel, getting a flow for things, how's college work, how's the speed of the game work. It's different. But you grow, you progress, and then you move into the offense in the following years. Now, speaking of offense, I was just like, all right, let me kind of look what this looks like. So I was like, I was curious. Staley, obviously one of the starting outside receivers. Redshirt freshman, you know what he's done, starting receiver, very productive. Mike Matthews, he's only a sophomore. Another starter, will be here at least one more year. And then you've got some other freshmen that have some playing time. Ricarius Jackson, freshman, played 3 games, backup receiver, but you know what? He's gotten on the field. Jakeem Dodson, once again, freshman, played 2 games, have a few catches. But once again, getting on the field, getting in the offense as well. Jack Van Dessler, tight end, played in all 5 games, getting more playing time. Good blocker right now. Continue to learn the offense. They like him a lot. And then your 2 running backs. 2 or 3 running backs that play a lot. I don't have to say Peyton Lewis, obviously freshman there, and Deshaun Bishop, redshirt sophomore. So out of your 996 rushing yards, 502 of that is from your sophomore backs, Lewis and Bishop. Receiving yards, out of your 1,686, 921 of that is from your freshman and sophomore wide receiving core. Which you love that. You love all those numbers from your running backs and your receivers. And, some of those receiving yards were Bishop and Lewis out of the backfield. So I counted that as well, not just straight wide receiver. So I was talking about receiving production. All these young guys playing a lot, starting a lot of them and being productive, obviously very important for your future because of the leadership roles they're going to have to potentially play next year when Tennessee is breaking in another new quarterback, whether that's your redshirt sophomore, your redshirt freshman, or your true freshman that is coming in if they don't go portaling again. Which I don't see that as the case, but it's one of those you never know at this point, obviously. So it's looking like a redshirt sophomore who hasn't played a lot, redshirt freshman who they've said has looked better than the redshirt sophomore. Or right now he's a true freshman, and I'm assuming he's going to get his redshirt. My assumption. But true freshman right now, redshirt sophomore. And then they've got a 5-star true freshman coming in the 2026 class. The wide receivers and the running backs are the core you need. Is going to be needed to lead your potentially young quarterback next year. Then you move to the O-line. David Sanders Jr. would have started, he would have started, but because of injuries, he hadn't played into the Mississippi State game. Got in the Mississippi State game late, played well, pressure situation because the game is still on the line. We'll play against Arkansas. They haven't said if he's starting because of another freshman in Jason Perry. looked well, starting all 5 games, and he's played well enough to keep his job. He hasn't been awful, so that's why there hasn't been a, oh yeah, David Sanders is our starter at tackle. We're going to move Perry inside to guard, and then no, like that hasn't been said. Now, that might be a thing next year, sure. But the way the season's going, the offensive line's been great. It's kind of why change it in my tweak it. Then on the defensive side, once again, broke it down kind of a different way. 4 linebackers have played in all 5 games. Yes, some special teams, but like I said, once again, getting on the field, learning the ropes of how college is. Edward Spillman, big time player, the leader in playing time, de facto starter, maybe that third linebacker when there's 3 linebackers on the field. When they're in nickel, 2 linebackers sometimes not. So obviously he's played a lot. Also, too, yes, some of this has to do with injury, but some of it is the experience of just getting on the field and obviously playing. 3 defensive linemen have played all 5 games, and 4 have played in 4 games. And then you have 1 that's played in 3 games. Yeah, Tennessee rotates as usual on the offensive line, try to keep guys fresh and try to keep their productivity at the highest, maybe potentially playing some less snaps. But, like I said, once again, you have 3 defensive linemen that have played 5 games, 4 that have played 4, and 1 that's played 3. Excuse me, 1 that's played 3. 1 that's played 4, 1 that's played 3. So, yeah, you love that. You love to see that production from the defensive line. Then you move over to the defensive back. 5 DBs have played in all the games. Yes, some of it's, once again, kickoff and punt coverage, but that's okay. Obviously, Ty Redmond, who I've talked about, forced to play, forced to be in action. He's held his own. He's done well. Yes, I've talked to him bad about the Georgia game, obviously, where he let some things go. He missed some things, but he's also a true freshman, learning and forced to play, which is only going to benefit him, of course, in the future. And then you've got 3 true sophomores at defensive back, too. Excuse me, 3 true sophomores in Boo Carter, Caleb Beasley, and then Farouk. All played. Some probably weren't Farouk, forced into action because of people hopping in the portal. So it's like, all right, from last year, you're our guy. 3 true sophomores have played. So there's a lot of youth being played in Knoxville, and not just there's a lot of freshmen on the team. No, they're playing. And part of it's because they have to play, but others is, know what? They've earned it, and they're doing very well. So if they stay, you're going to lose some of them, of course, and you plug spots in the portal. But if 3/4 of them play, and stay, that's a really exciting outlook for this team coming up in the future in Knoxville, because they're playing a lot. They can show that leadership in the future. So it's bright. And if you can continue to stack on stack recruiting classes, that's better as well, of course, of flowing in that talent. If you can get top 10 recruiting, or 10 to, Tennessee's always that 15 to 6, 7, 8 range really is kind of where they fall. So that's where they're at. If they can continue to stack more, top 10 classes in as opposed to 18, that's always gonna help continue that pipeline for players. As always, you follow me on Twitter at Lock It Up Media. That's Lock It Up Media on Twitter. You also check us out at E5280 Sports. You've been listening to Lock It Down Sports. I'm Locke Hoover. I'll talk to you next week.